Hey guys, tonight we follow the scent of something far older than your local grocery store's dusty spice rack. We're going to trail behind caravans creaking out of ancient China at dawn, lanterns swaying, camels grumbling, traders half awake but fully alert for fortune or bandits. The silk routes were never just about silk, you see. They carried whispers of cinnamon, hints of nutmeg, peppercorns rattling in secret pouches that could buy you an entire year of comfort back home if you made it back alive. And you probably won't survive this in reality. But luckily, tonight, you only have to listen. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is. There, drop it in the comments below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through the pre-dawn chill somewhere near Shang, back when it was called Chang'an and was the glittering starting point of the silk routes. The caravans gather in the flickering torchlight, muleteers adjusting loads, tea kettles steaming over tiny braziers. The warm, sweet smell of spiced tea floats between them already. The power of spice is everywhere. You overhear traders murmuring about the latest gossip, which official might tax them double this season, which mountain pass is iced shut, who saw bandits just 3 nights ago, a mainstream fact to warm your feet. The silk routes weren't a single road, but a living, pulsing network of trade arteries stretching thousands of miles from China through Central Asia, down into India, across Persia, and into the Middle East and Europe. Silk was king, but spices Spices were the hidden treasure that spurred merchants to gamble everything. As you check the bundles on a camel's side, you find, tucked beneath layers of silk bolts, a small sack of Sichuan pepper. It's so valuable, it's worth hiding from the tax inspectors at the next city gate. A fringe tidbit for your sleepy mind. Some caravans disguised spice loads by mixing them with dried flowers and herbs, so tax collectors would overlook them. You pinch a kernel and sniff numbing, citrusy, almost electric on the tongue. Historians still argue whether the earliest spice trades piggybacked purely on silk caravans or if entirely separate routes once wove out of Southeast Asia and India to feed China's obsession for exotic flavor. It's likely a bit of both an ancient patchwork of risk and reward. Tonight, you get to drift along that patchwork. No taxes, no bribes, just you and the gentle clop of hooves. The sun's coming up. In the east, it leaks rose and gold over the endless steppe. You adjust your dusty cloak though, really, you're warm under your blanket tan. Fall in line with the slow caravan. Ahead, Dunes roll like waves. Somewhere far off, a hawk circles, searching for mice or secrets. You reach a rest stop by mid-morning. Traders squat by the fire, warming rice dumplings spiced with star anise. You try one sweet, earthy, and impossibly fragrant. A mule brushes your shoulder, its breath fogging the dawn. No modern border crossings here, no metal detectors, just your feet, your pack, and the smell of profit. A young trader leans over, telling you in a low voice that a new shortcut opened up west of Dunhuang, cutting days off the Trekhif. You're brave enough to risk bandits. You nod like you'll consider it, but secretly, you know you'll stick to the main trail tonight, less dramatic for your sleep. More chance to drift. As the day rolls on, the road turns rocky. You pass tiny shrines, dotting the path, simple. Stacks of stones and fluttering prayer flags. They mark safe passage, or maybe they're bribes to local spirits. Some traders swear sprinkling powdered ginger around your tent keeps evil away, does it? Who knows? It smells nice, and that's half the point. By evening, your caravan halts beside a shallow stream. Tents pop up, fires flicker. Someone uncorks a clay jar of rice wine. In your pocket, you finger that peppercorn again, wondering how many of these tiny seeds changed hands, changed destinies, flavored feasts in palaces you'll never see. A gentle breeze brings hints of cumin from someone's stew pot. Someone laughs a joke about camels, the kind that doesn't quite survive translation. Under the canopy of stars, you drift beside the camels, listening to their low grumbles. The whisper of traders swapping stories of sandstorms and miraculous escapes. One old man swears he once carried a pouch of saffron, so pure a Persian noble paid him in silver coins stacked taller than his daughter. You smile. Maybe it's true. Maybe not. Tonight, you just keep walking, following that drifting trail of spice dust all the way west. The camp quiets. Fires settle into embers. The smell of cloves floats faintly from someone's cloak. You roll into your blanket, grateful you're only a ghost on this caravan. No sore feet, no bandits, no desert fever. Just the hush of ancient footsteps and the promise of more flavors waiting down the road. Morning on the silk routes is never gentle. You stir beneath the thin fabric of your makeshift tent, lulled awake by the unmusical braying of camels and the creak of leather harnesses. Somewhere nearby, a pot rattles as a sleepy cook stirs porridge with a stick of real cinnamon, not that fake cassia knockoff you sprinkle on toast today. One whiff, and you realize half this journey is just following your nose. You haul yourself upright, dust clinging to your cloak, and join the other traders packing up camp. Ahead lies the scorched throat of the Taklamakan Desert, infamous for swallowing entire caravans. When they stray from the whisper of hidden oases that stitch survival into this land, you won't stray mostly because you're dozing in bed, but also because the route is marked by stories etched into the minds of every trader here. The mainstream fact to sip with your tea. Taklamakan means go in and you won't come out in the local tongue, though historians still argue whether that's literal or a traveler's tall tale that grew with each retelling. Either way, the desert's reputation is well earned. Without the secret string of oases, the spice trade would have been nothing but bleached bones and lost peppercorns. The first day's march is all grit and ghost dunes. You taste the salt on your lips, squint through the sun's glare. Ahead, a flicker of green promises relief. When you arrive, it's more a mirage made real than a town mud brick huts. Tiny date palms, the hush of water trickling through hand-dug channels. Here is where deals blossom. Invisible to the tacksmen and kings who think they control this road, a skinny merchant in a sun-faded robe corners you by a well. He wants to swap star anise for your pepper, whispering that a Persian buyer offered triple what it's worth. You pretend to weigh your options, but in truth, you know this. The real profit hides in the shade, not the open road. The oasis is a hush-hush marketplace where gossip and goods swirl together like cumin in hot oil. Nearby, a woman tends rows of herbs mint, basil, a few wispy coriander stalks. Spice traders love the showy goods pepper, cinnamon, cardamom, but these humble herbs fill stew pots all the same. A fringe tidbit: archaeologists found tiny pits in oasis towns where merchants secretly planted coriander and chives to feed themselves and their camels, saving their costly spice stock for the cities down the line. You squat by a clay wall too. Rest. A child watches you through a break in the bricks, munching on dried apricots dusted with something sharp sumac, maybe. The taste hits the back of your tongue, tart and sunlit. In a flash, you see your own spice rack at home. Nothing like this vivid tang under an unforgiving sun. Traders shuffle past, whispering about the next leg. A shortcut through the dunes, or the safer but longer bend around the salt flats. Rumor says a new spring bubbled up near the salt marsh. Historians still argue whether these shifting springs were naturally occurring or the result of ancient irrigation tricks lost to time. You trail your fingers along your camel's flank, warm and bristly. Its packs are lumpy with silk on top, secret spices wrapped in cloth beneath. You know tonight, if you listen close, you'll hear someone snip open a bundle to slip a bit of precious saffron into their rice. Not for profit, just a taste of the riches they carry, but rarely sample. As dusk settles, the oasis shifts. Daytime bargaining gives way to stories shared by firelight. A circle forms around a trader with a split lip and tales of desert thieves who offered to spare his caravan in exchange for just a handful of cloves. He claims the bandits plan to brew the cloves in hot goat's milk, an old trick to calm coughs during sandstorms. You wonder if that's true or just more desert folklore. The night cools the sand beneath you. Someone hums a tune, half lullaby, half chant, to keep spirits awake for the next day's haul. You lie back, your head pillowed on a grain sack perfumed with fennel seeds. Sleep brushes against you like warm wind, somewhere on the edge of camp. A lookout watches the dunes. His silhouette is carved in moonlight, staff resting across his knees. A dog sniffs around the camels, hoping for scraps. You close your eyes, the hush of the oasis lapping against your ears, and imagine the dawn already coming to lift you out of the shade and back onto the sun-baked trail. In this hidden pocket of desert, deals are sealed, secrets traded, and the caravan breathes ready to slip like spice-scented smoke toward the next hidden spring. When the caravan stirs this time, it's the scent that wakes you. First a ribbon of cardamom and roasted barley drifting from a trader's battered kettle. You peel open your eyelids, the oasis already shrinking behind you as the camels lumber west toward Persia's looming gateways. If China's silk gave these routes their name, Persia's watchful cities gave them their backbone customs posts, caravanserais and bristling gatekeepers who could sniff contraband nutmeg better than any bloodhound. The sun rides higher now, bleaching the scrubland into a soft glare. Sand gives way to rock, then gravel plains scattered with half-buried columns, ruins of a fortress, or maybe just a merchant's dream that didn't survive the last tax raid. You plod beside your camel, fingers brushing its rough coat, your mind drifting as the bells on its harness chime with each step. Even here, the road hums with prophet, mainstream fact for your sleepy mind. The Persian Empire, stretching from the Achaemenids to the later Safavids, was always a keystone for the Silk Routes. Its cities, like Susa and Persepolis, rose like fragrant waystations where silk, lapis, and most tempting of all spices, flowed in and out under the watch of satraps hungry for tolls. You reach the outskirts of one such city as dusk paints the plains rose and copper. Archways stand cracked but dignified, carved with half-raised cuneiform prayers and lions mid-prowl. A guard lounges by a gate, eyes drifting over the camel trains and the stacks of silk bolts. But his nose twitches for something more pungent. Cloves, peppercorns, dried ginger goods, taxed by weight, rumor, and whim. Historians still argue whether Persian customs houses turned a blind eye for the right bribe, or if their ledgers were honest enough to shame modern bureaucrats. Either way, you watch a sly deal unfold. A merchant slips a packet of rare long pepper into a sack of dried figs, officially declared provisions. You're half tempted to applaud the subtle theater inside the city walls. Everything smells. A live grilled lamb crusted with sumac, rosewater drifting from bathhouses, sharp vinegar tang from pickled shallots, hawked at dusty stalls. You drift through a bazaar cluttered with copper lamps, silk scraps, and barrels filled with pungent, unfamiliar pods. A toothless vendor offers you a pinch of black lime, dried and powdered to spark soups alive. You roll it on your tongue, bright and bitter, wondering how many kitchens far west have dreamed of that same spark. A boy weaves through the crowd, balancing a tray of sweet saffron pastries on his head-stolen saffron. You're told by a grinning merchant. He winks as if to say, "Of course, it's stolen. That's half the taste." You pass under rows of wooden beams, strung with garlic and wild thyme. In the shadows, a quiet corner hides your next clue to the root's true lifeblood, the quiet scribes. These men rarely notice every sack, every coin, every rumor. One nods at you as you pass, reed, pen flicking over parchment. It's said these scribes sometimes salted their scrolls with fake spice prices to fool rival traders reading over their shoulders. A fringe tidbit, but you like to think it's true spices traded in secrets as much as in sacks. The caravan halts for the night within the city's old caravanserai, high-walled inn of sorts. You find a place by the inner courtyard fountain, the splash of water mingling with the low murmur of traders comparing gossip. Which gatekeepers are strict this month? Which desert paths are safe, where a new mint might pop up to stamp fresh coins? You let the chatter lull you, imagining the coins passing hand to hand, picking up traces of cinnamon and sweat as they drift from China to Persia, from Persia to Rome, Rome back to India. Money is metal, but spices are memory. They cling to your cloak long after the last deal is struck. You drift off with your back against the warm stone. Somewhere nearby, a cat noses at a stray date pit, eyes glinting in the lantern light. Distant flute weaves through the night air. The walls whisper the same promise they've murmured for centuries. The road moves. The spices flow, and somewhere out there is always another gate to pass through. Another city where a single pinch of flavor might buy you a kingdom or cost you one. You wake with Rome already rumbling in your bones, city so greedy for spice that entire caravans bend their backs to feed its bottomless belly. You march at dawn down a Roman road, straight as a ruler, stones slick from centuries of sandals, and cartwheels grinding secrets into the dirt. Beside you, the caravan stretches like a restless snake, baskets creaking under silk bolts, but tucked deepest beneath the silk is your real treasure: pepper, cloves, cinnamon, and ginger root, more precious than gold in these marble streets. Your boots scuffed the ancient paving stones. Somewhere overhead, a hawk cries out. Maybe it's hunting field mice. Maybe just following the scent trail of money that drifts wherever Rome feasts. A mainstream fact for your half-dreaming mind: by the 1st century CE, Rome was importing thousands of tons of pepper annually from India, funneled up the Red Sea, across Egypt, and into the hungry heart of the empire. And the Senate grumbled every time gold draining east, while the taste of India dripped onto patrician tongues. A gate looms ahead, arching high enough for the tallest camel. A bored guard eyes you, pretends not to notice the suspicious lump in your pack. He's paid well enough to look elsewhere tonight. Inside, the city exhales: columns, frescoed villas, carts stacked with amphorae of cheap wine, gossip swirling thicker than the spice, smoke drifting from hidden kitchens. You follow, the hush of cooking oil spitting over braziers. Somewhere a slave hums while pounding garlic and fish sauce into a paste, the sharp tang mixing with the sweetness of cloves snuck in from the east. Rome's banquets are performances: plush couches, bronze plates, tiny morsels so spiced they blur the line between food and spectacle. You slip through an open door, find yourself in a half-lit triclinium where senators recline like sleepy lions. A servant drifts by with a tray of honeyed dormice dusted in cinnamon for rodents, because when you flaunt empire, you flaunt it with flavor. You pop one in your mouth, taste the sticky warmth, feel the crunch of history between your teeth, a fringe tidbit to savor. Some Romans paid more for spices than they did for gold jewelry peppercorns, once stacked high enough to ransom kings. Historians still argue whether Rome's spice lust actually hollowed out its coffers, or if that's just a moral fable invented by later poets wagging fingers. Q. Tonight, you just wash the coins, flow bribes slipped under silver plates, pepper traded for favors, cloves exchanged for hush dot. You wander out through an alley where kitchen slaves toss scraps to stray dogs. The scent of burnt sage drifts upward as they scrub bronze pots. A boy carrying a clay jar bumps your elbow inside. You glimpse a swirl of vinegar and mustard seeds, a cheap stand-in for exotic heat when the real stuff runs dry beyond the kitchens. The spice trade hides in plain sight. In the marketplace, women haggle over garam fish sauce laced with pepper. A wrinkled vendor tries to sell you a pouch of fake cinnamon bark. You smile and shake your head. You know the real thing when you smell it, hidden away in your caravan's deepest basket. Safe from sticky fingers, at a public fountain, patricians gossip in lazy Latin about a new shipment from Alexandria. Crates of ginger root, fresh enough to make the emperor's chef weep with relief. Rumor says someone slipped extra cloves inside ceramic amphorae marked pickled olives, a trick that might earn a head on a spike if caught. But tonight, no spikes. Just soft water splashing and the murmur of secrets. Historians still argue whether Rome's taste for the East was cultural conquest or quiet surrender, longing to swallow the world one exotic flavor at a time. Just know this: the city never sleeps without a hint of pepper lingering on its breath. By dusk, you drift back to your caravan. Camels doze near a broken aqueduct, packs cinched tight. A trader lifts a flap to show you what's left, a dwindling stash of cinnamon sticks, a last jar of cloves, grains of black pepper rolling like tiny treasures over velvet cloth. The trade doesn't stop at Rome, of course. Some of this will ride further north to Germanic chieftains, eager to show off at smoky feasts. Some will vanish down dark alleys into the hands of apothecaries and poisoners alike. You lean back against a pillar, the city's heartbeat still pulsing through your bones. The air smells of torch smoke, olive oil, and something sweeter, maybe. Mulled wine spiced with what you helped carry across deserts and salt flats. Oases and gates. Above you, the stars blink open, half hidden by Rome's eternal haze. You close your eyes. If you listen close, you can almost hear a senator snoring, a servant humming, and a merchant counting coins by candlelight, each tick of the tally echoing the same truth. The road behind you is long, but the hunger ahead is longer still.
Tonight you settle into the gentle truth that not every answer can be pinned down. You drift deeper into the hush where Heisenberg's principle hums like a lullaby at the edge of thought. Here, uncertainty is not a flaw, it is a freedom, a hidden softness in the structure of everything. Imagine a single particle, an electron or a shy photon, dancing in the dark behind your closed eyes. If you try to catch it, to hold it still, it slips through your fingers. If you find its place, you lose its speed. If you hold its speed, its place drifts away like mist at dawn. This is the uncertainty principle, a promise from the quantum world that there are limits to what you can know at once. The tighter you grip, the more the details scatter. The harder you look, the fuzzier the edges grow. Some truths are so small they dissolve when you press too close. And yet, in this gentle fuzziness, the universe stays steady. Atoms do not fall apart. Stars do not flicker out. Your breath does not forget to rise and fall. The unmeasured is not broken. The uncertain is not lost. It simply is drifting, shimmering, staying whole by refusing to stand still in the hush of your mind. You find comfort here. You, too, are not meant to be perfectly pinned down. You, too, can hold contradictions without fear. You do not have to name every thought or solve every question before sleep comes. You can drift in the same soft unknowing that shapes the tiniest bits of matter. Let your worries blur at the edges like a particle's path. Let the sharp corners of doubt soften in this gentle mist. Rest in the truth that you are made of tiny uncertainties, all humming together in quiet harmony. You are both here and becoming. You are both known and unmeasured. In your heartbeat, you feel the whisper of quantum blur, the hidden movement that keeps you alive. In the hush behind your eyelids, you sense how each thought, each breath, each wish for tomorrow floats free in this warm ocean of maybe. You lie still now, wrapped in the warmth of the unknown. Somewhere deep inside, the foam bubbles on. Somewhere an electron tunnels through an impossible wall. Somewhere a pair of particles reach across the dark to hold hands in secret. And ahead of you drifts another soft puzzle, a new machine that dreams in probabilities, circuits that hum with the same quantum truths that hold the stars in place. Quantum computing waits for you next, a dreaming engine built on the same strange freedom that sets you gently adrift tonight. Now you drift toward a quiet hum, soft as wind through tall grass, the gentle, hidden beat of a new kind of mind. Here, in this space between your thoughts, you find a machine that dreams in probabilities, built not of gears and wires alone but of the same soft riddles that shape the quantum world. Picture a qubit, the heart of a quantum computer. It is not just a 1 or a 0, not just on or off, but both at once, like a coin forever spinning in midair. Each qubit holds a whisper of possibility, a shimmer of maybe. Together they braid these whispers into answers that no ordinary machine could find alone. In your mind, these qubits drift like fireflies in a dark field. Each one flickers with a different glow, a superposition of choices, paths, and secrets. They hum together, an invisible choir that solves puzzles not by force but by slipping through all possible routes at once. A classical computer is a careful librarian, sorting every page one by one until the right answer appears. But a quantum computer is more like a dreamer wandering through countless stories at the same time, letting answers rise out of the mist of maybes. You breathe in the soft promise of this idea, that even the most tangled problems might yield to gentleness, not brute strength. That somewhere in a quiet lab, circuits cooled to near nothingness hold these qubits safe, delicate, fragile, but strong in their strangeness. You feel the hush of superconducting loops, the ghostly gates that flip a qubit state with the lightest touch. You imagine a quantum bit drifting through its superpositions, collapsing only when needed, an echo of Schrödinger's cat curled up inside each calculation. This machine does not break the rules of physics, it leans into them, trusts that uncertainty, uses entanglement like an invisible thread to weave qubits together across its tiny circuits. The same secrets that let particles tunnel through walls and whisper across galaxies now build answers out of silence. Your thoughts rest here for a while, drifting through algorithms that solve problems faster than a million ordinary computers, encryption unlocked in a heartbeat, mysteries of chemistry mapped like constellations, new medicines shaped atom by machines that know how to listen to quantum whispers. And yet, these dreaming machines are delicate. They need cold so deep it hums like starlight. They need perfect stillness so that no stray noise shatters the superpositions they hold. They are a reminder that the smallest things are also the most powerful and the most tender. As you drift deeper, you wonder if your own mind is a little bit quantum to holding thoughts that overlap, ideas that braid and branch like qubits in the hush of night. Maybe inside you too, possibility hums until you choose to look. The machine keeps dreaming behind your eyelids. Its circuits glimmer with all that might be. You rest in the hush, letting your mind drift forward to the next soft paradox, a particle that changes its mind when watched. The observer's quiet power to shape what is real, and as you sink further into sleep, you turn gently toward that waiting riddle, the particle that shifts and dances beneath your gaze. Somewhere in the hush behind your eyes, you drift back to a single, restless electron, a tiny flicker of energy smaller than dust, lighter than light. You watch it hover near a thin barrier, the same gentle wall you've drifted past before, but now you stand closer, curious, patient, aware. This electron carries a secret. It does not decide how to behave until you decide to look. It drifts like a wave through the dark, brushing against all paths at once. Here, there, everywhere. Unseen, it moves like a whisper across a still pond, touching every ripple in every direction. But the moment your gaze touches it, the instant you measure where it is or how fast it moves, the wave settles into something certain. The many paths fade. One path appears. The ghost becomes a footprint. The possibility becomes fact. In this soft quantum truth lives a quiet paradox. The observer shapes what is real. The act of watching changes the watched. You feel this truth rest on your chest like a warm stone, heavy and comforting all at once. It makes you wonder, where does the electron's freedom end and yours begin? Does the universe care what you see, or does it shape itself around the gentle insistence of your attention? You think of your own thoughts, the ones that flicker when no one knows them, the feelings that shift when spoken aloud. You remember how a secret, once shared, settles into the world like a pebble in a pond, changing the ripples forever. So, too, this electron lives in its quiet maybe until your mind reaches out and pins it down. Your gaze becomes part of the experiment. You are not separate from the thing you see. You are woven into its truth. In your drifting mind, you imagine all the tiny things that stay hidden when left unmeasured, the shy electrons, the restless photons, the trembling qubits. You feel how they carry the soft freedom of possibility, each one a reminder that not everything needs to be fixed in place. Outside your closed eyes, the world feels solid, chairs, floors, walls that hold you safe while you sleep. But deep below these everyday things, the edges blur and shimmer. The small pieces that build you, that hold up your bed, that drift through your breath, all hum with this same secret. They settle only when you ask them to. Tonight, you rest easy in this knowledge. Not every answer must be chased to the end. Some truths are soft enough to cradle. Some questions are meant to be carried, not solved. The electron drifts away, its path dissolving back into gentle waves of maybe. Your thoughts drift with it, softer now, slower, like water slipping under a closed door. Ahead waits a new whisper, the shape of time itself bending and stretching at the edge of speed, where seconds slip past differently for those who move fast or rest still. You feel your breath stretch longer, your thoughts drift wider. You drift toward the next soft riddle, the gentle dilation of time, waiting for you in the hush beyond this dream. Tonight you drift into time's hidden corners, a place where seconds stretch like soft cloth, and hours can slip past at different speeds for different souls. Here, beneath your steady breathing, time is not a single river but a restless ocean with currents that twist and curl through the dark. You feel this most when you imagine yourself moving fast, so fast your heartbeat leaves your body behind, so fast the stars blur into soft white lines. In this hush, time dilation unfolds its gentle secret. The faster you drift, the slower your clock ticks. And if you could slip into light itself, time might hush altogether, a soft pause between one heartbeat and the next. This isn't just a thought for dreaming minds. Astronauts orbiting far above your quiet bed age a little slower than you do tonight. Tiny particles in distant labs, racing near light speed, stretch their fleeting lives for a few extra precious moments. Time gives them a gift, a little more existence, a little more maybe. But in the quantum world, time bends even more strangely. Here particles flicker in and out of being, borrowing moments from the future, repaying them to the past. One heartbeat forward, one breath backward, cause and effect tangled in a soft knot too small to hold in your palm. Close your eyes tighter and feel your thoughts slip into this gentle paradox that the universe does not always keep time like your bedside clock, that past and future can whisper to each other across hidden tunnels in the fabric of space, that your own memories, those echoes that drift through your dreams, might hum with this same timelessness. You rest now, imagining yourself a voyager. In this hush, you drift at the edge of speed, your seconds stretching like a soft sigh. You watch the world behind you race on, seasons changing, rivers carving valleys, stars being born and fading to dust. But you rest in the slowness, safe in the small eternity each heartbeat holds. Time dilation asks nothing of you tonight. You do not have to solve it. You do not have to run faster than light or count the ticking seconds. You only lie still and trust that time, too, can be soft, that moments can blur, stretch, bend around your quiet mind. Down this gentle drift you feel the hush of other possibilities, other worlds perhaps, waiting beyond this one, countless exoplanets circling distant suns, each one holding its own version of time, its own rhythm, its own drifting dreams. You turn toward them now in your thoughts, your breath slow and even. You drift from this gentle paradox into the hush of what lies beyond other Earths, waiting in the shadows of other stars, where time might feel different yet again. And as you sink further into sleep, you reach for these distant worlds, to soft new homes for your dreaming mind to visit as the night hums on. Tonight you drift into time's hidden corners, a place where seconds stretch like soft cloth, and hours can slip past at different speeds for different souls. Here, beneath your steady breathing, time is not a single river but a restless ocean with currents that twist and curl through the dark. You feel this most when you imagine yourself moving fast, so fast your heartbeat leaves your body behind, so fast the stars blur into soft white lines. In this hush, time dilation unfolds its gentle secret. The faster you drift, the slower your clock ticks. And if you could slip into light itself, time might hush altogether, a soft pause between one heartbeat and the next. This isn't just a thought for dreaming minds. Astronauts orbiting far above your quiet bed age a little slower than you do tonight. Tiny particles in distant labs, racing near light speed, stretch their fleeting lives for a few extra, precious moments. Time gives them a gift, a little more existence, a little more maybe. But in the quantum world, time bends even more strangely. Here particles flicker in and out of being, borrowing moments from the future, repaying them to the past. One heartbeat, forward, one breath, backward, cause and effect, tangled in a soft knot too small to hold in your palm. Close your eyes tighter and feel your thoughts. Slip into this gentle paradox that the universe does not always keep time like your bedside clock, that past and future can whisper to each other across hidden tunnels in the fabric of space. That your own memories, those echoes that drift through your dreams, might hum with this same timelessness. You rest now, imagining yourself a voyager. In this hush, you drift at the edge of speed, your seconds stretching like a soft sigh. You watch the world behind you race on, seasons changing, rivers carving valleys, stars being born and fading to dust. But you rest in the slowness, safe in the small eternity each heartbeat holds. Time dilation asks nothing of you tonight. You do not have to solve it. You do not have to run faster than light or count the ticking seconds. You only lie still and trust that time, too, can be soft, that moments can blur, stretch, bend around your quiet mind. Down this gentle drift you feel the hush of other possibilities, other worlds perhaps, waiting beyond this one, countless exoplanets circling distant suns, each one holding its own version of time, its own rhythm, its own drifting dreams. You turn toward them now in your thoughts, your breath slow and even. You drift from this gentle paradox into the hush of what lies beyond other Earths, waiting in the shadows of other stars, where time might feel different yet again. And as you sink further into sleep, you reach for these distant worlds, to soft new homes for your dreaming mind to visit as the night hums on.
By the time dawn smudges the river village into mist, your boat has drifted farther south, belly low with bundles of ginger, bark, and secret cloves. The river fattens into a delta's restless maze creeks, splitting and braiding like silk threads tugged by the sea. Soon enough, you slip past mangroves into the salt-breath hush of the South China Sea, where junks and battered merchant dhows huddle in tiny harbors. Sails patched and painted with dragons or simple stripes, you find your feet again on planks, slick with fish scales and yesterday's rain, stepping onto a wharf that smells like brine, drying shrimp. And if you sniff deeper, something sweeter, hidden under all that cinnamon. Not just any cinnamon, but Ceylon's best, bark coiled into neat quills, waiting for the right captain with the right silver. A mainstream fact to savor as you shift your pack. Ceylon modern. Sri Lanka was once the world's finest source of true cinnamon. Even before Portuguese and Dutch traders bickered over its forests, local kings guarded the groves fiercely, sending bark peelers deep into the jungle to cut only the youngest shoots. Prized for their softness and bright, almost floral scent. On the dock, a trader shows you a coil as thick as your arm. He peels back the bark to let you breathe it in, warm, sweet, faintly peppery, worth its weight in silver rings to Arab merchants and Indian middlemen alike. Each stick promising to turn bland stews into banquets fit for sultans. You shoulder your bundle and drift through the port town's muddle of wooden huts, palm thatch, roofs, and shrines painted with curling lotus flowers. Chickens scatter under your boots. Fishermen squat on crates to dye small fish into paste, while just behind them, a single spice stall does brisk trade in cinnamon bark and tiny nutmeg, seeds packed tight in clay jars to keep them dry. You barter with a woman whose bangles clink like tiny bells. She eyes your ginger stash, nods at your hidden clothes, and offers a roll of bark wrapped in palm leaf. A fair swap. She slips you a secret. Her cousin's brother's boat leaves tonight for Malabar India's Spice Coast, where pepper vines crawl up tree trunks like greedy green snakes. Historians still argue whether the cinnamon wars of later centuries began here, in small, smoky ports like this, where local traders, Arab sailors, and South Indian merchants met at dusk to haggle over bark that could buy them a year's worth of rice or an armed guard to keep pirates at bay. A fringe tidbit: some traders chewed cinnamon bark like candy to sweeten their breath and hide the stink of salted fish that clung to every harbor. You pop a scrap into your mouth now, and its warm tingle cuts right through the humid, salt air. Night softens the harbor. Lanterns bob on masts fireflies caught and tethered by rope and canvas. The cat slips past your ankle, chasing the scent of fish guts. Somewhere out on the black water, a gong echoes a temple bell, reminding everyone that whatever trade flows through here. The sea takes its cut in storms, shipwrecks, and sudden squalls. You squat on a crate by your next captain's dhow. He's old enough to be missing more teeth than he has left, but sharp enough to spot your hidden jar of cloves. He runs a thumb over the clay seal, gives you a grin gummy with betel nut. A deal is struck. Some of this cinnamon and these precious cloves will sail west to Malabar tonight, hidden under sacks of dried anchovies and coconuts to fool nosy tax collectors. Historians still argue whether the old dhows of the Indian Ocean were the silk routes. True champions know silk sails, no camel trains, just creaking planks and sailors who read the stars as easily as you read your own breath. As the tide rises, you drift aboard with your last bundle tucked under your cloak. The dhow rocks gentle as a cradle, ropes humming against the mast. Below deck, cinnamon bark curls like sleeping serpents among clay jars stuffed with cloves, ginger, and dreams of new kitchens far away. You lie back on a coil of rope, the salt temps mixing with warm bark scent. The sea breathes under you, steady as your pulse. Somewhere, a boy hums an old sailor's rhyme about cinnamon forests guarded by ghosts, cloves plucked by spirits under full moons. Nonsense, but you let it drift through your head like the tide itself. You close your eyes. The dhow rocking you toward Malabar's pepper vines, toward the next secret deal, the next hidden spice, the next soft promise that the road never really ends. Not here, not while cinnamon still curls under moonlight, and the sea carries your secrets wherever the wind dares whisper. The dhow carries you westward through waters warm and restless, its patched sail snapping in the dawn breeze. By now, you could swear you feel the old teak planks breathing with yew wood and salt and spice, fused into a single heartbeat that follows the monsoon's trail to India's pepper coast. The sailors hum low songs to the wind, half lullaby, half bargain with the sea's mood swings when the coast of Malabar rises from the blue haze. It smells not of salt alone, but of pepper, vines, fields, of green snakes slithering up rough trees, dripping with tiny black berries that could buy palaces once dried and packed into sacks sturdy enough to cross deserts and dynasties. You step off the boat onto soft sand that squeaks under your boots, the brine and spice mingling in the dawn mist, a mainstream fact for your drifting mind. The Malabar coast was the world's pepper juggernaut for centuries, its vines feeding the Roman appetite long before European fleets dreamed of rounding Africa's horn to steal the trade outright. Ancient ports, here like Muziris and Calaquet, welcomed ships from Arabia, Persia, China, and later Venice and Lisbon. Each captain hungry for the same fiery prize, peppercorns as small as a fingernail, fierce enough to conquer bland stews, and empty wallets alike. You follow a narrow path inland, half-naked pickers who climb pepper trees, barefoot, baskets swinging from their shoulders. The air pulses with cicadas and the whisper of leaves, heavy with black clusters. A young girl hands you a handful of fresh pepper berries, sticky with morning dew. You pop one into your mouth green, sharp, a promise of heat you can feel all the way to your temples. A fringe tidbit: some coastal pepper farmers secretly mixed stones into sacks to fool foreign traders on weight, one of history's oldest hustles. Historians still argue whether these scams made a dent in the vast pepper fortunes or just fed local gossip for the next moonlit harvest. By midday, you reach a sprawl of thatched huts where baskets of pepper dry under the sun, spread like tiny constellations across woven mats. Women crouch to turn them, toes digging into the sand while they sing songs about rain, husbands, and the price the next captain might pay. You breathe in the earthy, nose-prickling, scent-warm, almost smoky, as the sun does its quiet alchemy. Traders squat under coconut palms, passing jars of rice, wine, and gossip. A bearded broker calls you over with a grin wide enough to show beetle-stained teeth. He fingers your cinnamon coil, sniffs your hidden cloves, and gestures at his piles of pepper drying by the palm trunks. You haggle under the trees, coins clinking, nods and shrugs speaking more than your words. Historians still argue whether these coastal deals powered kingdoms or just lined the pockets of lucky middlemen. You watch coin slip into palm, pepper slip into burlap, secrets slip into memory. Another piece of your spice trail secured. As dusk bruises the palm fronds purple, you find a sleepy village shack to rest your back. You lean into a low wall of woven bamboo, the night alive with the whisper of pepper pickers still returning from their vines. Baskets empty, songs softer now, full of peppers, bite, and life's hush. You pull your pack closer, fingers brushing the cinnamon bark, the jar of cloves, the fresh pepper now yours to carry forward. Somewhere, a gecko clicks its tongue on the rafters. A dog curls by your knee, warm belly rising and falling like the tide you left behind. Outside, the trees stand dark and patient, pepper vines climbing higher into the moon's soft gaze. The monsoon winds still wait out there, ready to breathe you further west. But tonight, the pepper coast holds you still, cradled in its humid hush. Your pockets heavier with heat, and your dreams already drifting toward the next port where this fire will meet someone's stew, someone's coin, someone's sleepy secret under another roof, another star. You wake to the rustle of palm fronds sighing above you, the pepper vines whispering behind the hut as if they're jealous you're leaving so soon. But you're always leaving, following spice wherever it wants you next. This morning, that means trailing your fresh cargo of pepper westward across the Arabian Sea, past coral shoals and pirate whispers, toward the Persian Gulf's sun-baked ports where desert kingdoms trade pearls for pepper and cinnamon for silk. A battered dhow waits on the tide's breath, sail patched with scraps of old sarongs. You step aboard, sack of pepper snug under your cloak. The captain squints at your bundles, but asks no questions. His business is wind and coin, not the stories that cling to the spice you carry. A mainstream fact for your drifting mind. For centuries, ports like Sohar and Siraf were bustling nodes between India's pepper harvests and Baghdad's golden courts. Persian traders brought not only carpets and dates, but a hunger for peppercorns to heat their lamb stews and ginger to brighten their pickled vegetables. Tiny luxuries that turned arid kingdoms into crossroads of taste and wealth. Prow cuts through calm water, a ribbon of salt spray misting your face. Seabirds wheel overhead, their cries swallowed by the slap of waves against hull. Below deck, pepper sacks bump gently against your ankles. The burlap, breathing warmth you can almost taste on your tongue. Night finds you drifting, half awake against a coil of rope. Somewhere on deck, a sailor strums a stringed oud, note tumbling down to mingle with the hush of the sea. You think of how these peppercorns rode a tree trunk in Malabar, dried in a sun so fierce it would scorch your shoulders raw, hidden in your pack through muddy trails and dockside bribes. Now they sleep in the belly of a creaking boat, salt crusting the seams. Your secret hoard bound for another hungry market. When the dhow slips into the Persian Gulf at dawn, the water turns flat as glass, broken only by the shadows of pearling. Boats bobbing like lazy insects. You pass fishermen diving for oysters, each shell opened with a prayer for treasure, pearls and pepper, one plucked from the deep, the other from tangled vines, half a world away, both so small, so easily lost, yet fierce enough to make kingdoms bicker and bribe and bleed. A fringe tidbit: some Persian ports collected pepper, taxes in silver coins so pure they were later melted down to mint the first regional trade diners. Historians still argue whether this minted the Gulf's power or merely lined local sheiks' pockets while pirates prowled the sea lanes unchecked. You disembark at Saraf Hafport, half mirage on the Gulf's dusty shore. Whitewashed warehouses squat beside the docks, their stone walls sweating heat as workers haul baskets of dried dates. Jars of rosewater and coils of cinnamon unloaded from other patient dhows. You slip among them, pepper pouch tucked tight, eyes half closed against the sun's glare bouncing off coral houses. A broker finds you before you find him, turban wrapped so tight you wonder if he's hiding more than baldness under there. He cups your peppercorns in one rough palm, lets them trickle through calloused fingers, nods once. His men count your bundles behind a dusty screen door while you sip warm rose tea from a chipped clay cup. Historians still argue whether these backroom deals formed the backbone of Gulf prosperity, or if the real wealth always sailed east and west without ever settling in one port too long. You watch the broker slip coins into your hand, silver discs stamped with the faint grin of a long-dead caliph. One man's bribe, another's inheritance, another's recipe waiting to taste like home. By dusk, you've traded pepper for rose oil, cinnamon for a fresh bolt of bright Persian silk that you might barter later for passage north. The broker's apprentice waves you off the dock, already eyeing another dhow loaded with ginger root, packed tight under clay jars of frankincense. You settle at the edge of Saraf's tide line. The warm Gulf breeze brings you the scent of salt and spice, mixing with the smoky drift of Bakur burning somewhere in a merchant's courtyard. Behind you, the desert waits, dry as bone, but always hungry for what you carry. Ahead of you, the sea hums its restless promise, more ports, more secrets, more pepper to feed the next city's dream of flavor. You curl up on the sand, silk bundle under your head, coins hidden deep in your sash. Overhead, stars prick the sky wide open. If you listen close, you swear you can hear a cook's ladle scraping the bottom of a peppery lamb stew. Half a kingdom away, your pepper, your story, drifting on a whisper of heat and salt. By the time the Gulf's breeze fades behind you, your silk bolt is bartered for a lean camel and a cracked leather waterskin. You find yourself once more on dry land, no waves rocking you now, only dunes that roll like frozen swells under a sun sharp enough to bleach your bones if you dawdle too long. The old caravan trail to Baghdad yawns ahead, its ridges and wadis stitched with the footprints of 1,000 spice-laden traders who dared the same dust before you. You trudge alongside, your camel its soft snorts keeping you company in the hush. The sand shifts underfoot, squeaking in that curious way that only desert grains know how to whisper. Inside your pouch, a handful of peppercorns tucked safe, behind fresh lumps of dried ginger and a slip of Ceylon cinnamon bark small treasures that tie you to the silk roots like beads on a prayer string, a mainstream fact for your half-drowsy mind at its peak. Baghdad was the crown jewel of the Abbasid Caliphate, where scholars debated the stars while cooks simmered lamb with black pepper and ginger. Recipes so beloved that scribes copied them into yellowed manuscripts that still survive in dusty library vaults. The sun climbs, relentless. You drape your scarf tighter around your face. Somewhere in the dunes, a lone lizard flicks its tail and vanishes under a scrubby bush bedder, hidden than you with your precious cargo. A fringe tidbit for your drifting thoughts. Some desert caravans carried their pepper sealed in waxed leather to fool desert thieves who sniffed at saddlebags for the scent of spice. Historians still argue whether these tricks saved fortunes or merely gave bandits new reasons to slit open every bundle they found by dusk. You reach an oasis cupped in a hollow of date palms. Water sighs up through reeds, cool on your blistered palms. You squat in the sand, watching other traders doze beside their dozing camels. A boy pokes a tiny fire under a battered brass pot, dropping in slivers of ginger to brew a thin, spiced tea that steams like a miracle in the chilled desert. Night dot, you sip the ginger tea, its warmth coiling in your belly like a promise that your journey might yet survive this ocean of sand. Beside you, a caravan elder leans close, lifting the edge of your pack to peek at the cinnamon bark. He chuckles, toothless grin wide, and tells you in a hush that his father once swapped a single stick of Ceylon cinnamon for an entire herd of goats. Proof that spice doesn't just feed the mouth, but fattens stories still argue. Whether these travelers exaggerated their pepper trades around the oasis fires, or whether the truth really was so spiced with fortune, you listen to the old man's voice slip into the hiss of the wind rattling the palm fronds. Maybe both are true out here. Who's left to dispute a good yarn? When the fires burn low and the camels settle on folded knees, you lean back onto your silk bundle, its bright threads dulled by the desert's hush. You watch the stars unfurl overhead more maps than any caravan master could ever follow in a lifetime. Somewhere beyond that dark horizon, Baghdad's gates wait to swallow your pepper into bubbling pots, your ginger into delicate sweetmeats wrapped for a caliph's feast. A dog pads past, nosing at your feet before curling beside you for warmth. You stroke its wiry fur, eyes half-lidded, mind adrift in the hush of a trade route so ancient it hums beneath the sand like a heartbeat. You wonder who will taste this cinnamon next, some courtier licking syrup from his fingertips, a poet spooning spiced custard under a flickering lamp, or you drifting further west yet again with only stories and a lingering ghost of heat on your tongue. Tonight, the oasis cradles your sleep in its cool palm, your camel a silent guardian at your back. The wind whispering over dunes that hold every secret spice has ever carried, bribes and feasts, all hidden under moonlight, waiting to ride your next dawn. When dawn peeks over the dunes, like an ember, you wake with your cloak still warm from the dog curled at your knees, and the soft hush of camels rising in the half-light. The oasis fades behind you as you join a fresh caravan, long lines of traders and beasts threading their way toward the low, hazy promise of Baghdad's spires. Your pouch is lighter now, but what you carry matters more than gold, pepper, ginger, cinnamon. Each one a secret that can slip through a border faster than any scroll. Sand crunches underfoot as the caravan plots on, a ribbon of footprints stitched over older trails. You catch scraps of chatter, Persian, Arabic, half-mumbled prayers that the dunes won't cough up raiders today. Every saddle creaks with jars of rose water, bolts of silk, dusty baskets of dried figs that tempt even the toughest guard to swipe. A handful when no one's looking, a mainstream fact for your drifting mind. By the 9th century, Baghdad's house of wisdom was the brightest flame in the world's library, where scholars mixed Greek, Persian, and Indian ideas like spices in a stew, copying old texts while sipping cups of peppered wine or ginger sherbet. Some say that kitchen was as important as any lecture hall, for a sharp meal made sharp minds. You tug your scarf tighter against a sudden gust, hot and dry as a baker's oven. The camel next to you grunts and flutters its lips at the sand, unbothered by winds that could skin your throat raw if you dare breathe too deep. You check your bundle again, fingers brushing the warm burlap. The pepper rattles inside like a promise by noon. The dunes flatten to scrubby plains, scattered with thorn bushes and small villages where children wave at your passing line of beasts. At a sun-bleached khan on the outskirts of one such stop, you trade a pinch of pepper for a bowl of chickpea stew that stings your tongue just enough to remind you how far your little berries can stretch. A fringe tidbit for your sleepy brain. Some cooks in medieval Baghdad mixed pepper with honey to make spicy sweet candies, prized by poets for tickling the throat when reciting verses all night long. Historians still argue whether these recipes were born in palace kitchens or street stalls hidden under arches of brick and sun-baked clay. You imagine both truths weaving together like your own trail traders and scribes, swapping secrets over simmering pots, spicing each line with a pinch of heat. At last, Baghdad's outline rises like a mirage turned real domes catching sun, minarets pricking the sky, city walls wrapped around the heartbeat of rivers, and marketplaces humming with every tongue known to the silk routes. The gates swallow your caravan whole. The camels snort and shuffle under guard towers painted with watchful eyes. Inside, the air changes warmer, more human, heavy with cooking smoke and the faint perfume of saffron drifting from hidden courtyards. You slip off your camel, boots hitting stone instead of sand for the first time in weeks. You press through alleys where carpet sellers call out patterns and dire stir-vats of indigo so deep you'd swear they hide the ocean inside their pots. But it's the spice stalls that pull you closer, sacks of pepper piled high like coal, cinnamon bark stacked in curling towers, ginger root sliced thin and drying on trays that catch every curious nose that wanders too near. Your last handful of pepper trades for a small silver coin, a fresh scrap of silk, and a promise from a pastry cook who swears he'll scatter it over honeyed dates sold to a palace scribe tonight. You picture that scribe licking pepper dust from his lips between lines of verse, your own trail of heat curling into the next poem written in the hush before dawn. Historians still argue whether Baghdad's spice markets were truly the silk routes. Final stop, or just another way station feeding flavors west into Byzantium, Venice, and hungry castles beyond. But you know better. The road never ends, just shifts its scent, changes its tongue, hides its treasures in new hands. As dusk folds soft shadows between the city's arches, you rest your back against a warm brick wall. Children chase each other through the spice alleys, giggling when a swirl of pepper dust makes them sneeze. Somewhere deeper inside the city, a cook lifts your ginger into a pot of sweet rice. A scholar leans back in a lamplit corner, scribbling lines that might last 1,000 years, his mind sharp, his supper sharp, your trail lingering in each bite. You close your eyes against the hum of the market, the steady press of footsteps around you. The road behind you whispers of dunes and salt spray, riverboats and thieves, orchard winds and cinnamon forests. The road ahead, it hums, too, soft as the hush that steals your breath when sleep finally curls its gentle fingers around your shoulders. The market's lull drifts over you like a silk veil as the sun dips behind Baghdad's domes. Somewhere, a muezzin's call to prayer drifts through the streets, echoing off stone walls, slick with a day's warmth. You rouse yourself from your nook in the spice alley and slip your pack higher onto your shoulder lighter, now than when you first set foot on this winding trail. But richer in secrets than any merchant ledger could confess. You wander deeper into the labyrinth of the city, past lamplit stalls where scribes haggle over ink and paper, and bronze smiths hammer scraps of copper into fine filigree boxes, many of which, you notice, are made to cradle tiny treasures like peppercorns and dried ginger slices, each box a promise of warmth when the desert winds howl cold at night. A mainstream fact for your drifting mind. Baghdad, at its peak, was not just the seat of the caliph, but the magnetic core of global trade spices. Books, silk, glass, and ideas all swirling together under arches and awnings where poets, cooks, and traders brushed shoulders in the hush of the evening market. You step into a narrow courtyard, tile floor, cool under your tired boots. At the center, a fountain burbles softly, perfumed with rose petals drifting in the water's lazy spin. A boy kneels at the edge, washing cinnamon bark in a shallow basin, preparing it for a confectioner's early morning batch of spiced pastries to tempt the dawn's first. Market dashgoers, he nods when you pass, recognizing you as one of the quiet ghosts who carry the spices here from beyond the dunes and sea. An invisible trade woven through every sticky treat and sharp stew, simmering behind closed courtyard doors. A fringe tidbit for your drowsy mind. Some Baghdad bakers sprinkled black pepper into date pastries to surprise their guests' biting sweetness, chased by a sudden, teasing warmth that lingered on the tongue long after the final crumb was gone. Historians still argue whether this trick came from India's pepper tricks or was an invention of some bored court chef, desperate to stand out in a city where even the humblest baker dreamed of winning a caliph's favor with one unforgettable mouthful. You slip back into the lantern-lit lanes, passing tiled hammams where steam curls under painted arches, and old men gossip while sipping ginger tea brewed so strong it could wake a scholar from midnight stupor. The scent drifts past you, ginger, cinnamon, the ghost of pepper warming the cool desert air. It all began far behind you, in muddy paddies and tangled pepper vines. It ends nowhere, really just shifts form from bag to basket to simmering pot, from your hand to a stranger's tongue. At last, you settle by the city's western wall, where traders bed down under patchwork blankets stitched with scraps of silk traded for secrets just like yours. You drop your pack at your feet, almost empty now, except for one stubborn coil of salong bark you couldn't quite bear to sell. Maybe you'll carry it west over the next pass, or slip it under your cloak to barter for one more meal when silver runs dry. The city hums around you, cooks stoking low fires, scribes sharpening reed pens for tomorrow's ledgers, cats padding between shadows, hunting scraps dropped by careless spice sellers. Your eyelids grow heavy with a hush. Every muscle unwinds like silk unspooling from the loom. Your breath smells faintly of pepper and sweet tea, a final echo of the road winding all the way back to jungles and deltas and crooked docks under moonlit sails. You drift closer to sleep now, cheek resting against the warmth of your folded cloak. The last thing you feel is the low hush of the desert breeze nudging your hair. The last thing you hear is the soft laughter of traders counting tomorrow's profits, or maybe just tonight's stars. And the last thing you taste, still clinging to your tongues, the sweet, sharp promise that somewhere, someone is stirring the next pot, cracking open the next pepper jar, and slipping your story into their simmering dreams. As your breathing deepens and your thoughts quiet down, picture the flicker of those clay lamps dying down in Baghdad's winding alleys. Imagine the last spice jar sealed shut, the final coin tucked away. Let the chatter of the market drift far, far behind. Feel the warm night air on your skin, scented with rose and cinnamon and a whisper of pepper's hidden heat. The road is softer now, no more dunes to cross tonight, just the hush of your own heartbeat sinking with the hush of traders snoring under desert stars. Let each breath stretch a little longer, your shoulders heavier with good dreams, your mind lighter than any caravan pack. There's nothing left to trade now, only sleep to carry you gently past gates and rivers and secret docks. Listen, even the camels sigh in their sleep, dreaming of sweet dates and shady palms. Let yourself drift. With them, let the spices slip away. Let the stories wrap around you like silk. Rest easy now. Sweet dreams.